Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. What really happens when a woman who once explained everything suddenly explains nothing? When warmth turns into precision overnight, is it anger or is it evolution? Think about that friend or partner who used to give endless chances, and then one day, without drama, without shouting, they simply stopped. In today's video, we're breaking down the psychology, the neuroscience, and the strategic recalibration behind what many call the Sigma female warrior mode. This isn't about mood swings, it isn't about emotional instability, and it definitely isn't about revenge. It's about restructuring. It's about what happens when pattern recognition reaches a threshold and the brain decides enough. Let's start with the foundation. The Sigma female paradigm exists outside traditional dominance hierarchies. While alpha archetypes perform authority through visibility and external validation, the Sigma profile operates through internal autonomy. Her identity is not built on applause, competition, or control. It's built on self-sufficiency. She doesn't need to announce competence. Competence radiates. She doesn't need to dominate rooms. She moves independently of them. Her motivation is intrinsic. That means her goals come from her own internal value system, not from social pressure. Psychologically, this makes her highly self-regulated. She doesn't derive security from structured roles. She derives it from capability. And that distinction becomes critical when boundaries are violated. Before the snap, there is architecture. The Sigma female doesn't tolerate blindly. She runs what you could call nested tolerance brackets. Minor issues stay in the outer bracket. Scheduling mistakes, miscommunications, these are noise. The middle bracket holds occasional boundary slips, especially when corrected. She understands humans are imperfect. But the innermost bracket is reserved for patterns. She isn't tracking isolated incidents. She's tracking trajectories. Are words aligning with actions? Is respect consistent? Is effort mutual? Her brain logs this data quietly. She doesn't announce that she's observing. She just is. This phase is analytical, not emotional. Her mind is running a background process, comparing expectation versus reality. Most people don't notice because nothing explosive happens. The first visible signal is subtle. Her communication decreases slightly. Not dramatically, just enough. She stops over-explaining. Her responses become efficient. She shares less personal information. This isn't passive aggression, it's testing. She's watching to see if the other person notices the shift, if they care enough to ask what changed, if they adjust. Most don't. Then comes the catalytic event. Here's the key. The snap is rarely triggered by the worst offense. It's triggered by confirming evidence. Something happens that proves the pattern was intentional, not accidental, not careless, intentional. Once she concludes that someone had the capacity to choose respect and deliberately chose otherwise, the internal contract breaks. And when that happens, there is no explosion, no dramatic confrontation, no screaming match. There is a decision. Neuroscientifically, this is a shift from approach circuitry to avoidance circuitry. When new data challenges previously held assumptions, the brain recalibrates rapidly. The benefit of the doubt system shuts down. The threat detection system activates. Her question changes from "how can I understand them" to "what are their actual motivations?" Ambiguity is no longer interpreted charitably, it's evaluated strategically. The emotional chaos that once existed often stabilizes instantly. Why? Because certainty, even negative certainty, is calming. The confusion disappears. The data is complete. Her prefrontal cortex takes command. Executive function overrides emotional reactivity. She is no longer reacting. She is planning. That's warrior mode. Now, watch the communication shift. Before, she elaborated, she provided context, she asked about feelings, she invested emotional labor into making sure others felt heard. After the snap, language becomes minimalist. Okay, noted, understood. Not rude, precise. She stops filling conversational space. She stops offering emotional cushioning. If confronted with distortion or gaslighting, she corrects facts calmly. That's inaccurate. Here's what happened.
No debate, no defense, just correction. The warmth doesn't vanish entirely. It becomes conditional, context-dependent. In professional environments, she remains cordial. In personal ones, access narrows.
For the recipient, this feels like a temperature drop. The ecosystem changed. The energy shifted. Now boundaries transform. Before, boundaries were flexible. She accommodated circumstances. She made exceptions for complexity. After the snap, boundaries move from guidelines to laws. They are enforced neutrally. Cross it once, access tightens. Cross it repeatedly, the relationship ends. No theatrics, no revenge, just implementation. The power of this neutrality is what unsettles people. There is nothing to argue against, no emotional leverage, no guilt leverage. She also becomes explicit. She articulates standards clearly, not emotionally, but technically. This behavior is unacceptable. Going forward, this is the expectation. There is no ambiguity. Next comes standards elevation. In romantic contexts, once deliberate disrespect is identified, psychological exit begins. She stops trying to fix. She stops assuming better communication will solve it. She begins disentangling emotionally long before physically. In friendships, effort becomes reciprocal or non-existent. If someone doesn't show up consistently, they are downgraded silently. Friend to acquaintance, inner circle to outer circle. In professional settings, she stops doing unpaid labor, stops covering incompetence, stops assuming leadership will eventually recognize effort. She becomes exactly what the job description requires, nothing more. She also begins exit planning if the system proves chronically toxic. Then comes elimination. She stops apologizing unnecessarily. She stops managing other people's emotions. She stops shrinking her schedule to accommodate last-minute demands. Temporal boundaries appear. Messages are answered when she chooses. Availability becomes intentional. She stops doubting herself. This is crucial. The internal dialogue shifts from, "Am I overreacting?" to, "My standards are reasonable." With that shift, hesitation disappears. But warrior mode isn't only subtraction, it's addition. Freed energy gets reallocated. She becomes ruthlessly honest, not cruel, but clear. If something bothers her, she says it. If she's uninterested, she declines without elaborate justification. Productivity often increases. Emotional bandwidth previously spent on unstable dynamics now fuels personal goals. She builds independence infrastructure, financial, emotional, logistical. She reduces dependency to near zero. Relationships become tiered. Inner circle gets warmth and loyalty. Middle circle gets professionalism. Outer circle gets courtesy. She says no, frequently, cleanly. Strategic vulnerability replaces open vulnerability. She shares information selectively and observes how it's handled before offering more. Now, observe the ecosystem reaction. Some people claim she changed, became cold, became distant. Translation, she stopped tolerating behavior that benefited them. Others attempt guilt recalibration. You're overreacting. You used to be so understanding. These are attempts to re-access the old version of her. She doesn't re-enter. Some recruit social pressure. They reframe narratives, position themselves as victims. Often this fails because she no longer derives identity from group approval. Interestingly, high-quality individuals adjust immediately. They respect boundaries. They don't feel threatened by them. Those relationships often strengthen. Others leave entirely, and her response is relief. Long-term, this state doesn't fully revert. Manipulation detection sharpens. Guilt tactics fail. Gaslighting is recognized instantly. Her peace becomes non-negotiable. Confidence increases because she has proven to herself she can walk away. Loyalty becomes selective but absolute. Those who pass her standards experience deep commitment. She invests fully where trust is earned. Over time, a calibrated equilibrium forms. She is no longer defensive, but she is never naive again. She becomes discerningly warm. Warmth becomes a choice, not an automatic reflex. That makes it more valuable. Her presence changes. It feels grounded, complete. She doesn't need validation. She doesn't seek repair from people unwilling to repair themselves. Decision-making accelerates. When she decides, it's done. She builds redundancy into her life. Happiness doesn't hinge on one person. Success doesn't hinge on approval. And paradoxically, this makes her capable of healthier relationships. She chooses from abundance, not scarcity. This transformation is not regression, it's maturation. It's the realization that tolerance has limits, that boundaries are not punishment, they are architecture. It's the understanding that access to her warmth is earned, not owed. When a Sigma female snaps, what you're witnessing isn't emotional collapse, it's psychological optimization. She has restructured her operating system. She has reallocated her resources. She has clarified her standards. And she has accepted that protecting her peace may cost her popularity. But in that cost, she gains autonomy. In that autonomy, she gains power. And in that power, she becomes something profoundly stable, not colder, clearer, not cruel, strategic, not broken, integrated. That is warrior mode.